In today's video, I want to go over yet another PlayStation 5 feature potentially being revealed with the way of a Sony pan suggesting PS5 will have a chat bot feature. We'll go over that, and we also have a couple of updates on potential PS5 and PS4 JRPGs. I imagine Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 will end up being a PlayStation 5 title. NieR Replicant, on the other hand, that game's transition to a next-generation version. That'll be a PS4 release. And we have updates on both of those games in just a little bit. But first of all, as noted by GameRant.com, Sony pan suggests PS5 will have a chatbot feature. The article reads, the PlayStation 5's release later this year is inching slowly closer. Sony might be taking things patiently, making announcements about the PS5 at a very measured pace, but even Sony can't avoid certain official PS5 details from leaking entirely. The latest leak comes from another Sony filed patent, this one for a digital assistant or chatbot. The chatbot would be able to listen to a person's queries and respond, not unlike Apple's Siri, Microsoft's Cortana, or Amazon's Alexa. So this is something we've seen quite a bit with other technology platforms, so it's not like PlayStation 5 having this would be anything breakthrough, but it still would be a pretty nice feature. The patent itself provides a very basic description of Sony's chatbot functionality. It's able to listen for a person's query, create a response, prompt the user for further queries, and so on. It's also able to set up to respond to scheduled tasks or events, presumably like an alarm or notification. The patent shows the chatbot will be able to connect to the cloud in order to acquire the necessary information required for its responses. Also noted, one particularly interesting aspect of Sony's chatbot is that it has an avatar as well as a facial animation module. I think that could be rather interesting. I think it could also get memed on quite a bit, but nonetheless, we need to see official reveals before we really talk about that. The diagrams in the patent show the chatbot as a small person who would be able to move and talk like a normal person rather than just a beep or a voice response. A visual avatar could pop up on PS5's users' television if they ask the chatbot a question. Yo, if this happens, you gotta let me customize that chatbot. Let me put like Ratchet or like Ratchet and Clank both be in my chatbot. Or let me put Sly Cooper, or let me put some of these iconic PlayStation characters as my chatbot. I think that could be really, really cool. Obviously, other revealed patents for the PS5's controller, the DualSense, show that it should have a microphone, and furthermore, the DualSense will potentially allow for voice commands and headset-less party chat, a key feature necessary for issuing headset-less commands to a chatbot. So all of these things are lining up. I'll leave the full link to the Game Rant article in the description box below because there are some images that I think are worthwhile to take a look at. So have a look at that, link in the description box below, but that is yet another potential PS5 feature. Alright, moving on from that, Final Fantasy VII Remake is now almost a month old. Can't believe it's already been a month. I imagine a lot of you guys have completed the game. I had an absolutely incredible time with the game, but once you complete the Final Fantasy VII Remake, the question immediately arises, when am I going to be able to continue this story? Because it's a pretty big cliffhanger, and obviously the story has a lot more to be unfold. Tetsuya Nomura noted, I hope to release Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 ASAP. Next games won't completely deviate from the original. Yoshinori Kitase also noted that. Now, before we actually look at what they say, I have been pretty vocal about the fact that I would not be expecting the FF7 Remake anytime soon. I would not expect it in 2021. At the best case scenario, I think 2022 is the earliest we can see it, and I'm basing this off of the fact that it was 2 years between all of the Final Fantasy 13 releases. So from Final Fantasy 13 to 13-2, that was 2 years. Then 13-2 to Lightning Returns, that was 2 years as well. And honestly, looking at the Final Fantasy VII Remake and then looking at Final Fantasy 13, which game is more ambitious? Which game potentially is going to take a lot more time to develop for? I don't know, I would have to think the Final Fantasy VII Remake, but maybe I'm wrong about that. How long will fans have to wait for the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2? According to director Tetsuya Nomura, this depends on which team handles the individual production parts. In the freshly released Final Fantasy VII Remake Ultimania, which is a massive guide and lore book for the remake, Nomura was quoted for saying that he hopes to have Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 out as soon as possible. The release schedule, however, depends on which team will handle the production parts. It depends on which team handles it, the director said, as translated by a Twitter user, Atakai Mochi. If we divide the work in large parts, it'll take longer. If we separate the work in smaller parts, it'll be a shorter amount of time. I hope to have the next part out ASAP. Back in November of last year, Square Enix confirmed that the team is already working on the second part of the remake, but a release frame has not been announced yet. The new Ultimania also contains some quotes from producer Yoshinori Kitase, who had something to say about the upcoming parts of the remake. While the main story events in FF7 Remake Part 1 are pretty much the same as the original, the game does contain some twists and turns, and I won't go into that in this video because I know there's some of you guys that are still playing through it. According to Katase, however, for the future parts, the team doesn't have any intentions to completely deviate from the original game. I don't really know if I buy that anymore. I mean, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think the general consensus going into that game was that it was going to be a one-to-one remake just with more fleshed out content, and yeah, if you played the game, you probably know that that isn't necessarily the case. Whatever the case may be, whether this means that the team intends to abstain themselves from additional story twists remains to be seen. It's good to learn, however, that the next parts of the remake will likely stay close to the original, as noted by WCCF Tech. I personally am open to changes and open to the game going a different direction. I'm excited about it. Look, I love a good train wreck in video games sometimes, and sometimes I do like my high-quality games. That's why I was kind of entertained by everything that happened with The Last of Us Part 2. I know, maybe that comes across very cynical, but guess what? We got a billion great games. If something crazy happens, hey, I'm all for it. I'm all for a little bit of craziness in the gaming world, and the Final Fantasy VII Remake really did offer me that craziness. However, I'm still hoping it turns out to be a good game. Am I skeptical? Yes. Tetsuya Nomura trying to do something a little bit out there with the FF7, and I'm not completely sold on it, but I'm definitely at the point where I'm interested to see where it goes. They have my attention, and hopefully they don't lose it within the next few games, and we'll ultimately see how many parts this game will be. The imperative was it would be 3 parts, but we keep talking about this game being 3 parts as if that's set in stone. We just think it's 3 parts because the majority of games, hey, trilogies, Mass Effect trilogy, Crisis trilogy, there have been a lot of trilogies, Half-Life trilogy, if that ever comes to fruition. So a lot of people just think Final Fantasy VII Remake is inherently going to be 3 parts, but it very well can be 3 or 4 or 5 parts. There is a lot of depth to the Final Fantasy VII story, and at the end of the day, the remake only covered the Midgar section. That is a very, very limited portion of the game, and just thinking about the potential content that you can delve into, look, the story of Vincent wasn't explored at all in Final Fantasy VII. That is a layer to the game that you can explore. They made a whole game about Vincent. There's content from Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII that you can explore. Final Fantasy VII has a very, very deep storyline that extends far beyond just the base game, and we're talking about the FF7 Remake only covering Midgar, which was a fourth, maybe a fifth of the original game, which is crazy to think about, and we could very well be in for 3, 4, maybe even 5 parts of the game, as scary as that sounds. Hey, to some people that's going to sound incredibly exciting. I think the only thing Square Enix is seeing is dollar signs because the FF7 Remake seemingly sold very well, and they probably got some money from Sony for the exclusivity deal. They probably made out like bandits financially, but nonetheless, FF7 Remake Part 2 is noted to come ASAP if it's up to Tetsuya Nomura. Lastly, I do also want to highlight NieR Replicant. Now, this is a game that was very, very underrated on the PlayStation 3. Of course, we saw NieR Automata, and that game was received incredibly well, but the first NieR game is still something that has gone a little bit to the wayside. Well, the original NieR Replicant gameplay was a bit unrefined, and it seems like things will be improved considerably in regard to the upgraded version. Obviously, NieR Replicant was not done by Platinum Games. When you compare a game's gameplay to another game that's done by Platinum Games, which game do you think is going to have the better and more enjoyable gameplay? It's probably going to be the Platinum Games title. Members of the development team revealed some additional details on the game on the latest issue of Famitsu, as reported by Ryokata 2089. Regarding gameplay, it has been confirmed that while the original unrefined gameplay is part of the original NieR Replicant's charm, the upgraded version will have to feel good for the fans of NieR Automata. It has also been confirmed that the cutscenes will not see major changes, as camera work will be the same as in the original. There will, however, be some unspecified improvements that they didn't go into. The developer also touched upon the new content that will be added to NieR Replicant. Upgraded release will be completely no, so we should not see any reused enemies and locations, so content will be completely new to this title. NieR Replicant is the first entry in the series made popular by NieR Automata, and NieR Replicant didn't even sell that well commercially. I'm surprised that they decided to give the franchise another go with NieR Automata, but hey, that game turned out really, really well, and it sold incredibly well. Initially a PS4 exclusive, then it came to PC, then Xbox One, and that game was incredibly well received. Many might even go as far as to say that it's the best Square Enix JRPG in a long, long time. Obviously, Platinum Games helped out with it, and that gameplay from Platinum really shined through, but it also retained a lot of the presentation, music elements of the first NieR title, and when you couple that with the great gameplay, you got a great game out of Automata, and hopefully Replicant can at least be a satisfying experience so that fans of Automata, when they check out NieR Replicant for the first time, they still get an enjoyable experience, and at the end of the day, the music and things of that nature should still remain very, very good as long as they refine the content, a little bit and make it playable, I do think this is going to be a very good release. Hopefully that's out sometime in 2020. But that's going to conclude this video. Again, a new patent is suggesting the PlayStation 5 will have a chatbot feature. Nomura is hoping to release FF7 Remake Part 2 ASAP. Let's see what ASAP is, because ASAP could very well be 3 to 4 years given how Square Enix goes about things, but let's hope it's more in line with the 2-year time window. And NieR Replicant upgrade gameplay will have to feel good for Automata fans, and it will be refined a little bit. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.